This is The Huddle, presented by the Midwest Christian Boys Football Camp, otherwise known as Man Camp. Welcome to The Huddle. Hey friend, welcome back in The Huddle. I'm Mike McCurry, your host. We've got Pastor Jay Griggs with us. You've been administrating, working in a huddle, what we call the huddle at football camp. We're not talking about that 15-second gathering, getting the play before a football play on the field. We're talking about a 30-minute, 45-minute, sometimes an hour-long little huddle, 7 or 8 boys, half the team, where you present a biblical concept and you ask questions, you quote scripture, you ask follow-up questions, all the young men talk. But we spend a lot of time talking to the young men on this broadcast, and as we should. But talk to the coaches, of which there are 50, 60, 70 pastors, missionaries, evangelists, laymen, men, many of which will end up as huddle coaches, meaning they get to spend some time with boys from ages 10 all the way up to 19, varying needs. But talk to coaches about how they can connect with these young men, because we're going to have new coaches.
Right.
First year as a huddle coach this year. Talk to coaches, give them some words of advice with someone that's been doing it and has made great connections.
The most important part, Brother Micah, is that they are transparent about it and that they're honest about it. I was just thinking about one of my sons. He was telling me about his huddle from one of his huddles from last year or the year before, and he was just talking about how the coach, who is also a pastor, said, "Look, guys, I am 60 years old and I still have to guard my eyes, for example. Just because I'm 60 years old doesn't discredit the fact that I'm still a man.
Right.
And whenever there is a woman or a lady dressed very modestly, I have to guard my eyes. And if I don't, those same desires and temptations are there." And that spoke volumes to him, because a lot of these young people look at pastors like they are superheroes.
There's this mystique and all that.
Right,
yeah.
that there's no possible way that they can ever make mistakes or have the same desires that they do. But it's very true. So when you make make it to where it's very relative to them, down to earth, floor level. Hey, I myself am capable of doing this just like you are, and I have to keep my guards up just like you do. Right now, it makes a world of difference in the eyes of a young person.
Absolutely, and to think that you've had men invest in you throughout your life and continue to. There's still men you'd call mentors, people that still invest in you, and it helps when there's a relationship there. And even at football camp, I can tell you, the times when I would be on a team and my coach would be the one preaching, I was like, I know that guy. That's my coach. That's my guy. And when you're cheering him on, I was just a teenager.
Right.
I know this guy for all of 3 days, but that's my guy, right? He's up there preaching. Because so many of the coaches go out of their way. They invest themselves. They're not off, taking phone calls constantly. And people, pastors, things you got to deal with, all that type of stuff.
Right.
But they're so invested, so there throughout camp. It's amazing, and to think it's exhibited here in the last minute here. Give one last charge to coaches that are coming about how they might prepare themselves even spiritually to think that I'm going to get to invest in a lot of boys, but there's going to be 7 or 8 boys that are mine for this week. I get to invest in. Give one last charge to these coaches.
Well, one of the main things that I always try to do right before football camp is I do some self-examination, Brother Micah, making sure my heart's right, because I'm going to spend a whole week pouring my heart out to a bunch of young people, and I don't want to pour out a diluted or a portion of my heart that's tainted with my own pride or my own selfishness or whatever sins I may be harboring in my heart. So I challenge you to take the time to do self-examination and cleanse and purify your heart before you come.
Phenomenal. That preparation work is so very important. Yeah. You wouldn't jump into a Super Bowl without game planning, without preparing, without being at your physical best, without doing all the training, all that type of stuff. Football camp, spiritually speaking, is a Super Bowl of activity, of spiritual activity. Yeah. Let me encourage you, young men, come in spiritually prepared. Read your Bible. Coaches, come in spiritually. I know we're so busy ministering to so many different people, but if you could carve out some extra time for self-examination and prayer, I know I and those young men would appreciate it. Pastor Griggs, thank you for joining us all this week. Thank you for coming to, I say in faith, for those of you listening to the Midwest Christian Boys Football Camp, 30th year, August 6th through 11th. Thanks for joining us in The Huddle. God bless. Thank you for listening to The Huddle. You can find more information and register for Man Camp online at mancamp1994.org. Man Camp is a ministry of the First Baptist Church in Dwight, Illinois. Join us next time in The Huddle.